Yes. Because he goes in court. Right.
Oh, yeah, okay. What about sitting up now? Yeah, you guys probably could, because they can't. Oh, there's like that probably.
Sean, are they gonna have any of that book like they did last time?
Hey everyone, good evening, and for all of our junior families that are here in the auditorium, and of course for potentially the many that are home watching us live, welcome to the second part of your college planning series, What Should You Be Doing Over the Summer? It's an exciting time, and I know that from just hearing and connecting with so many of the juniors over the last couple of days, that it was a very busy vacation week for so many of you with college visits and opportunities, and the excitement is now starting of the potential that's there. And so I'm excited for what's to come. And tonight's session, I think, is so important because it really does give you a real menu of really things to be thinking about and considering over the next many months. Because when you come back to school in September as a senior, it is really, you're on to now begin all the process of those applications. And so to be able to do some of the front loading that you could be doing over the next months into the summer, I think you'll find it to be very helpful. So I think you're going to find tonight really informative, and I'm excited for the next steps. And just think about it, a year from now, you'll be finishing out exactly where you're going. Our seniors right now have May 1st deadlines to do their commitments. And so many of them know exactly what they're doing, and others are in the scramble trying to figure out what to do. So just how quickly this time frame will go as you yourselves are beginning the countdown to graduation in next June. So without further ado, I'll introduce Steve Goldman. Enjoy your night tonight, ask questions, and we're here for anything you may need. Have a good night.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out, and thanks for tuning in for those of you who are at home tonight. We are glad that you are here for part 2 of college planning. Is there anybody here that was not able to attend or view part 1? Okay, so you might feel a little bit lost in the process because there is very little repetition from part 1 to part 2, and part 3 will be in September. However, it was recorded. So if you go to the Middleborough High School website, click on the school counseling link, and then click on the junior information link, you will find the workbook that goes along with part 1 and the video of that presentation from that evening. So that will get you right up to speed because we're going to pick up where we left off in that workshop. And the reason we do that is because we don't want to overwhelm you with all the information in January. So we break it up into 3 pieces so you can work on it, get to the next section, and then get to the following section. So we're glad you could be here this evening. This workbook that we're going to go over tonight is going to be emailed home to all the students and parents probably tomorrow. So you have your own copy of it. It'll also be available on the school counseling department website under the junior information link. So why don't we move along? And like the previous workbook, we have a timeline of what you should be doing roughly between now and when you come back in September. It's important to kind of take a look at this, especially things like SAT test dates and deadlines. And there's a college fair coming up. So if you want to go to the college fair as part of our field trip, you want to make sure that you're registering in time for it because space is limited. So there's a lot of things here that will help you kind of keep you on track with things. And of course, if you have any questions about what some of these things are, feel free to reach out to your individual school counselor. And they would be more than happy to assist you in the process. So we're going to move along. And for those of you who don't remember who your counselor is, Mrs. Byrne has everybody with the last names A through F. Ash Barron has G through MI, and I have all the students whose last names fall between MO and Z. And that is the rest of our staff, our school to career counselor, Mrs. Miller, our intern, Ms. D, and our administrative assistant, Mrs. Amaral, who was a tremendous help. She actually has 2 kids that have gone through the process. One is currently a senior, going into her senior year at Roger Williams, and she is very, very knowledgeable in the process. She actually was on our panel a few years ago to talk to the parents and students about how to best prepare. So here's a review of what was covered in the Where to Begin workshop back in January. And then, like the last book, the ACT and the SAT test dates, we strongly recommend that you take the SATs twice. Usually it's the May 7th, where we're a test center here at Middleborough High School. Unfortunately, if you have not registered for that, the deadline has passed, and the late registration deadline is passed also. So if you did not, we strongly encourage you to register for the June 4th. We're not a test center for that here in Middleborough, but you can take it at any school that's offering it. They're offered at high schools, colleges in the area. There's lots of different places. You just go to that link where it says collegeboard.com, and you can pick the test site that you want to go to. And again, here is the rough timeline of when you should be taking the different tests. We recommend, like I said, taking the SAT twice, once in the spring of your junior year and again in either late summer or early fall of your senior year. Depending on when your college application deadlines are, there are early action and early decision deadlines that fall October 15th, November 1st. There is a November 1st SAT here at Middleborough. So for those 2 deadlines that I just mentioned, that probably wouldn't be a good one to target. If you want to get that second one in, I would shoot for the August 27th. Might be a little warm in whatever building you're in, but at least you get that second score and you can mix and match and compare how you did in the first one. So the things you want to start taking care of before you leave for the summer is teacher recommendations. Please note that more is not better in this process. If a college is asking for one academic letter of recommendation, you do not send them 3 or 4 and say, let them sort it out and figure it out. They don't like that. Northeastern, I think they said, had over 1,000 applicants this past year, and they took probably about 10% of those people that applied. So if each one of those applicants submits one additional piece of paper, you see what the problem's coming on their end? So we really want to make sure that you're following the instructions. Notre Dame several years ago got so frustrated with people not following instructions, they actually made a note in the admissions files saying that the student didn't follow instructions because they sent 2 or 3 letters of recommendation. If you're not sure, if you have 2 of them, and you can also remember that if they're not needed, you're really asking your teachers to spend their personal time, because they don't do it during the school day. They do it on their own time to write those letters. So you want to be conscious of what you're asking them to do also. They'll be willing to do it, but if it's not necessary, don't ask them to do that. If you feel that you really need to, or you have 2 that are just so great, you're not sure which one to submit, talk to your school counselor. They'll be more than happy to help you out in trying to figure out what would be the best one for you to submit. And again, you want to make sure when you're submitting letters of recommendation, an academic letter of recommendation means teacher. Mr. Brannigan and some of the other administrators here get asked quite frequently for letters of recommendation for college, and that's fine. However, it's not an academic letter of recommendation. They have not seen you perform in the classroom. So it's really important that you have an academic, preferably in an area that you're interested in. So if you're thinking about going into engineering, you might want to ask a math or a science teacher. You don't want to ask a phys ed teacher if you want to be an English major. So you want to make sure that you're kind of picking appropriate ones. And again, your counselor can help you if you're not sure where to go. Letters of recommendation, you want to avoid asking teachers that you had in 9th or 10th grade and you haven't had them yet. The colleges are really looking for something more recent. Hopefully you've improved as a student also since 9th and 10th grade. Now, if you had a teacher as a 9th or 10th grader and you know you're going to have them senior year, then that might not be a bad choice because they can see the growth in you as a student also. So just be very careful when you're selecting who you want to write those letters of recommendation for you. So the form that you're going to have to fill out for your teacher is this blue form. It's a letter of recommendation information sheet for teachers. If you are asking more than one teacher, you need to fill out one for each teacher because you're going to be talking about your experience in their specific classroom, okay? These forms can be found in Naviance, in the document library, at the bottom of your homepage. They're Word documents. You can just click on them, type, the boxes will expand, and you will be able to, and then save it outside of Naviance. Naviance is going away as of June 30th. We're phasing it out, and we're going to talk about the program that's coming in. So you're going to want to make sure that you're getting these things taken care of, filled out, save it on your computer. Do not put it into Google. If you make it a Google Doc, it's going to completely mess up the formatting of the form. So make sure you're saving it as a Word doc and you're on your computer or a flash drive or someplace. So that's the teacher letter of recommendation, okay? Now, when you're filling these things out, you're gonna have to fill out one for your counselor also. And this is some of the stuff here we talked about, who you might wanna ask and all that and everything. But now, when you're filling one out for your school counselor, this is the green one that's also located in the document resources section of Naviance. This is for your counselor to write the all-round recommendation. So you're gonna be talking about not only your in-class experiences, your academic experiences, but your extracurricular, your outside of school, community service, part-time jobs, and everything that shows you as a well-rounded, complete person. Neither one of these forms needs to be a long, drawn-out essay. Okay, it doesn't have to be the great American novel. However, you don't want to put one-liners in these boxes either because you're going to get out of this what you put into it. Especially with your school counselors, we do not have as much access to you as your teachers do. Your teachers see you pretty much every day. You know, we absolutely don't come close to that. We know some of you better than others. Some of you don't really need us until we get to this point in your high school careers. This will help us kind of fill in the gaps of the areas that maybe we don't know about you that have been significant and meaningful and purposeful for you. So it doesn't have to be the great American novel. However, you want to basically, for each section, state what it is, give 2 or 3 examples of why that experience was meaningful or significant, and then move on to the next section. So this green one is 4 pages without you even typing on it. By the time you finish, it really shouldn't be much more than 4, maybe going on to a 5th page. Like I said, the boxes will expand. They don't want your teachers or the admissions counselors don't want your teachers or your school counselors writing more than a 1-page letter of recommendation, again, because they have so much to read. They want the gist, they want the flavor of who you are, and they want to move on and make their decisions. Again, you're going to save this as a Word document outside of Naviance and hold on to it until the fall, and then you can email it to your school counselor when you are ready to start the process. The third form is the activity sheet, and that is based more so just the extracurriculars. You're going to probably talk about extracurriculars in the other forms too, but the activity sheet will also help your guidance counselor further understand if you played softball. Were you a captain? Were you an MVP? It's going to give us more details, more understanding of what you were involved with. In addition, this form is also used in the scholarship process, which you're going to begin in February next year. It's the 2nd page of the scholarship application. So once you do this form for us, you just hold on to it and you'll have the 2nd page of your scholarship application completed already. Again, save it outside of Naviance. Do not put it in Google. And on the next page, we gave you some examples of what you can put in these forms on the activity sheet. Every year, it ceases to amaze me. We look, and I know that a student's been involved in something and they don't have it on that list. Any babysitters out here? We have a babysitter over here. I can't tell you how many times when I say, so do you have a part-time job? No. Do you babysit? Well, yeah, I babysit. It's a job with a lot of responsibility. So you want to make sure you're including, and we put that on here as an example, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, things, even if you only did it for a year, okay? And again, they're not looking to go back to middle school and elementary school. If you did the Walk for Hunger once in 8th grade and never did it again, that's not something they're looking for. They're primarily looking for grades 9 through 12, or something that you've made a long-term commitment. Do we have any dancers here? Okay. Horseback riding, piano lessons, something maybe that you've been doing since you were very young, shows a long-term commitment. So those are things certainly you want to put in, but primarily you're looking at the things that you've done from grades 9 through 12. If you know that you're going to play a spring sport, include it on there. A lot of times people say, oh, I played baseball 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, and the college was like, why did you stop? Well, I hadn't played it yet, but you're planning on doing it. Include those things, okay? Okay. The college interview. Most colleges do not do interviews anymore. If you happen to come across a school that wants to do an interview or is offering an interview, take advantage of it. That means that they're not doing it just for the sake of doing it. They want to get to know the people that potentially are coming to their schools. A lot of small schools really take the time to do that. Sometimes it's not uncommon for a vice president or president of the college to stop by and say, oh, hi, introduce themselves and be a part of the interview. They really want to get to know the people. There shouldn't be any trick questions. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You got to remember that you're the consumer and you're buying a very expensive product. And you want to make sure that it's going to be the right fit for you. So it's okay to ask the hard questions. When you go into an interview, make sure you've researched the school a little bit. Know what the school's mission is or what the majors are, or if you're not sure, what they have for extracurricular activities. Ask those questions. It shows that you have an interest. Probably the trickiest question you're going to get, people stumble over this one all the time. Tell us a little bit about yourself. That should be the easiest question. And if you don't know what to say, ask your best friend, ask your parents. What do you see in me? What are my good qualities? What are my strengths? They're just trying to get to know you. It could be as simple as, I'm 17 years old. I'm the oldest of two kids. I enjoy playing guitar. I play basketball. They just want to get a sense of who you are. They're not looking for anything to trip you up or find any deep, dark secret about you. So there's some sample questions here to kind of review if you have the opportunity to do that. The application and admissions. Now is the time to start organizing. Okay, this is not a hard process, but it is a very long and detailed process, which is why we started you in January. If you can roughly stick to the timelines and the inside cover of these books, and just ask questions of your counselors, you're gonna breeze through the process. So just find a place in the house, an office, the dining room table, someplace where you can spread out folders and all this and everything. Some people do spreadsheets. When we go over our new software program, you're going to see how easy it is to manage the colleges that you're looking at by clicking and dragging the ones from you're considering to you're applying to the ones that you don't want to consider anymore. So there's all kinds of ways to organize yourself and keep track of things. So the major components of the application and the fee. Application fees can run anywhere from $10 to $100, depending on the college. I would say on average, you're probably looking around $65, $70 per application. If you receive free or reduced lunch, speak with your school counselor in the beginning of the school year next year, and we will make sure that you get a fee waiver. Okay, but we need to cross-reference against the list that Mr. Brannigan keeps stashed away in his office. We can't even see that list. We have to say, just tell us who gets them and who doesn't. And we will make sure that those fee waivers get waived for you. The secondary school report is completed by the school counselor. And that talks about our school and it talks about you. Recommendations completed by the counselor or a teacher. We also send out the transcript. The school profile is a detailed list of what our school is all about, our average test scores over the years for SATs, where our students go, what types of courses we offer. It just gives them a snapshot of our school, because a student coming out of Middleborough High School with, a 3.5 grade point average may not be the same as a student coming out of a school in Boston with a 3.5 grade point average. It depends on the curriculum and what's being offered at those schools. So that helps kind of balance everything out and level the playing field. And then, of course, test scores, which now, since COVID, a lot of colleges are test optional. And a lot of big time schools are test optional too. So depending on the schools, check and find out. You still should take the SATs just to have those under your belt, just in case you need them down the road. But if you're not sure if you should send them, talk to your counselor. We'll look at your grade point average, and we'll see if that will stand on its own or if the scores will help or hurt you. So let's talk about the different types of applications. There are 5 different types. There's early action. Most of the early action, the deadlines are between November 1st and December 15th. Most colleges run the 1st and the 15th as far as selecting what deadline they want to use. Early action is a non-binding application. You submit it early. You can apply to as many colleges early action as you would like to. You find out early. So if you have a November 1st early action, you may find out before Christmas. You do not have to make a decision or a commitment at that point. You still have until May 1st, 2023 to make that final decision. Early decision is a legally binding contract that you, your parent or guardian, and your school counselor are all signing off on, saying, yes, I'm applying to one school early decision. If you get in, you have to withdraw from all your regular decision applications, and that's where you're going to go to college. You're not going to find a lot of school counselors that like early decision. You will not have any idea about financial aid for months later. You don't want to find out that you're going to a college that's going to cost you $80,000 a year, and they locked you in December, and they didn't offer you much financial aid. So, and colleges don't have both. Okay, most colleges select one. We're an early action school, or we're an early decision school. There are a few schools that have an early decision 2 or an early action 2, and that just means it's a later deadline, but before the regular decision deadlines. Priority is also non-binding. It's similar to early action, but usually specific to an individual college. Any possible nursing majors out there? Okay. If you're thinking about nursing, regardless of what it says in their application, you want to submit it early. The earlier, the better. There are so many people that want to be nurses. There's a huge demand for nurses, but there's not enough spaces on all the college campuses for them. A school like UMass Amherst, there's about 30,000 people there. They take 80 students a year into their nursing program, and you can't transfer in from another school. You either come in as a freshman or you don't go to nursing. They just don't have the physical seats to put you in. So you want to send it early. And in a case like that, that might be a priority application. Regular decision. The regular decision applications run January 1st through about April 15th. The bulk of them, I would say, are January 1st until March 15th. That is just the regular time the regular decision are just where the majority of people actually apply. You don't have to apply early thinking that it's going to benefit you. If you feel like you cannot get this done in a thorough way, if you're playing a fall sport and you didn't do the college application boot camp and you didn't take care of your forms in the spring and the summer, and now you got to try to cram all this in because you want to make a November 15th deadline, it might not be worth it. That essay might not be perfect. You may make a mistake on the application because you didn't get a chance to have more people proofread it. You want to make sure that you're doing a thorough job and you're presenting yourself. In most cases, it's the only thing they're going to see. It's that application and that essay. So you want to make sure you're presenting yourself in the best possible light. And then there's rolling admissions. So rolling admissions is, there's no specific deadline. You can apply in August if you want to apply. The nice thing about rolling admissions is there's always a school to apply to. I've had students in the past that had unfortunate situations. A parent lost the job. They couldn't afford to go to the school that they were planning on going to. I had a student several years ago who was an only child and lost her father. It was just her and her mother, and she was planning on going to Colorado for college, and she's like, "This is too far. I need to be closer to home." Rolling admissions is great. There's always another school there to apply to. The downside of rolling admissions, you don't want to wait too long and say, "Well, you know what? It's rolling. I'll do it later. I'll do it later." With rolling admissions, with the other ones, with all the other deadlines, they wait till the deadline and they process all those applications and then they make a decision as a group. With the rolling admissions, they get the application, they read it, they make a decision. They read the next one, they make a decision. If the school fills up in January, they fill up in January. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword with the rolling admissions. My suggestion is, when we talk about safety schools are not always schools that are safeties because of your academics. Sometimes it's a safety just to say, hey, you know what, it's more affordable, it's closer to home. So sometimes it's not about your ability to get in academically, it's just you want to have something there just in case the unforeseen happens. So the next page is information that you are going to need to complete your applications. All the school information is right there. So you're going to have to make sure that you have all that down, ready to go when you're filling out those applications. Your class size will be finalized when you come back in September. We have to make sure we've got everyone out that's transferred and all the new students in that have come in transferred into us. Your years attended, make sure that you don't put yourself in the 5-year plan. Most of you started in 2019 and will be finishing in 2023. Unless you transferred here, then you're going to have to adjust that. And graduation next year, I already have you guys graduated, is June 3rd. So you're going to need that information too. The essay, the most difficult part of the process. The college essay is something you shouldn't wait till the end to do. Okay, a lot of times people say, I'm just going to do the applications, I'm going to take it this, and then I got a week or two, I'm going to get this essay done, and you want to start the essay. And when I say start it, you scroll down. If you're using the common application is an application that has over 900 colleges that subscribe to it. So it's one application, it's one essay, instead of having to fill out individual ones for each college. Now, not every school is on it, but there are plenty, most of the popular ones that you're familiar with are on it. But read those prompts. You got to write on, if you're using the Common App, and most of you probably will be, you're going to have to select one of those prompts to write on. Number 7, which sometimes people like and sometimes it scares people, is a topic of your own choice. So if you don't like the other ones, you can write about something else. So read those over, pick the one that you're interested in, and start out by just making notes. Usually they're looking for an experience you had where you learned something about yourself, an obstacle or a challenge you've overcome, a person you admire. And if you're going to write about a person you admire, make sure that you always bring it back to yourself and say, as a result of my experience with this person, these are my goals, my beliefs, my values. I had a friend of mine that was an admissions counselor at Boston College for years, and he used to say, I read more wonderful essays about grandma and grandpa, about wonderful people they were, and we'd gladly accept grandma and grandpa to our school. His student never brought it back to themselves, and that's what they're looking for. If you want to write something that was very personal, certainly you can do that. But just keep in mind that you're sending out to a bunch of people that you don't know. Some people don't have a problem with that. Some people are a little concerned with that. If you are a funny person, don't be afraid to put a little bit of humor into your essay. If you're not known for your humor, now is not the time to try. Okay, so tips for writing your essay. Use proper grammar. capitalize the beginning of sentences, proper nouns, and use appropriate punctuation. For the parents, I apologize, but you should see the essays that we read. It looks like one giant text message. We know that you guys know how to write because you have to for your English classes. So act like you're being graded on this, okay? Make sure you are properly writing these, knowing that you're being judged based on your writing. It's not, the essays are not just, the essays serve two purposes. They're writing samples to see how you write, and it's an opportunity to also see a little bit more beyond the numbers, what kind of person you are. Okay, so SCORE is going to be our new career and college management program. So when you folks started here as freshmen, we introduced you to Naviance. Naviance is a wonderful program. I've been using it for probably about 20 years. There was nothing like it out there. Big proponent of it. But we found out about this new program called SCORE, which most of the schools in the South Shore are switching to, or have switched either last year or are currently switching right now over to SCORE. So we contacted the company, and we went through, we had demonstration and went through some trainings with them and everything, and this is an amazing program. Naviance is great. This is beyond great. There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. We're still learning how to use the program too, but it's very, very user-friendly. So if you're the kind of person that just needs to look at it and not have to worry about what the meaning of it is, just click on it, and it'll tell you what to do and where to go. So we're very excited. The counseling staff has gone through the training, and we're just kind of reviewing everything with it right now. And we're going to be doing SCORE workshops with all the juniors. We're going into your English classes, and this is the schedule up here. So those are the days that we're going to be going in. And unfortunately, we have to wait until a little bit longer for this because we have AP testing coming up. So we didn't want to interfere with that schedule. But this is going to be a great program for you guys. And I'm going to show you a little bit of a video clip here, which will give you a brief overview.
Win at work by communicating effectively. With Grammarly, meet Todd. He is emailing.
That's the first time the commercial showed up.
Welcome to the SCORE student desktop application. Here, students will have a personalized college discovery experience, complete with a host of other useful features to help them during the college process. Let's begin with an overview of the student dashboard before moving on to 3 key areas of the SCORE student application. The student dashboard is a personalized landing page a student sees each time they log into SCORE. Here, students can search for a college, view the status of their applications, review upcoming visits and deadlines, and browse best matches based on their preferences, in addition to other colleges that they might like, suggested by SCORE. On the left-hand side of the student dashboard, you have the ability to update your student profile, see any outstanding messages, keep track of upcoming application deadlines, and any additional requirements on behalf of them, in addition to registering for any upcoming office hours and college visits. And finally, you'll be able to keep track of any surveys here as well. Over here, you'll find Start Your College Search, where you can filter and search colleges based on your preferences. You can also compare colleges here, where you will add up to 4 different colleges to compare side by side, which we'll review in a little bit. And finally here, you'll have the ability to attend college sessions, whether it be a virtual visit or a financial aid session. First, the student profile is where students can manage all of their personal and academic information, access their career profile, and manage their college preferences and document storage. The personal details section is host to students' contact information, email addresses, linked parents and guardians, and application IDs. Here, you can include and edit information such as preferred gender, contact information, and any additional information that you want to include. The academic overview is where students can add and edit their test scores and GPA if enabled in your school's settings. Activities and achievements give students a place to record their extracurriculars, such as work experience, volunteer experience, and athletics. College preferences is where a student can edit what they want their college search to look like in terms of academic focus, degree type, distance and proximity, personal interests and activities, and so on. SCORE has partnered with career aptitude and assessment platform Uscience to provide career assessments to all SCORE students. The Uscience assessment takes around 2 hours to complete and does not have to be completed in a single sitting. This aptitude assessment is set up in a game-like format where students will work through each section. Once a student has completed the Uscience assessment, there will be a waiting period of around 12 to 24 hours for Uscience to generate their results. Once their results are available, students can favorite careers based on the results of that assessment. These favorited careers will then populate in their career profile section of their profile and SCORE. And finally, the Student MyDrive allows students, parents, and guardians, in addition to counselors, to upload files and links to their document storage.
So I just want to pause for a second right there. We have already uploaded the forms that are in Naviance into SCORE, the teacher letter of rec info sheet, the counselor, and the activity sheet have already been uploaded into SCORE. Again, you're not going to be able to access those until you register. And what we're going to do is we're going to send the registration email out to both students and parents. You'll each have your own accounts, shared accounts, I should say. What we're going to do with that is we're going to ask you, the students, not to register until the actual workshop, because you can actually, if you don't do it right, it can cause more issues and delay you actually getting onto the program. So the email will go out that week. Just hold on, and we will walk you through the registration during those workshops. Parents, you can go on. They said that it was pretty simple for parents to do that. So let's go back to the video.
When a student lands on the Discover page, they'll immediately be presented with their preference search results, here listed as My Matches. Additionally, You May Also Like is an extension of their search preferences, which will list similar colleges to those already listed in a student's matches. If they'd like to conduct a search outside of their preferences, they can go to the Advanced Search tab. Here, they'll be presented with the complete search experience with the ability to edit filters based on personal interests, academic focus, athletics, acceptance rates, and more. Students can search privately by enabling the private search toggle at the top of the page. This allows students to search without visibility to their parents and guardians or counselors. If a student finds a college they'd like to follow, they can do so by clicking the follow ribbon associated with that college. Additionally, they can search for a college in here as well. It is broken into 3 main columns, which are Following, Applying, and Applied. The Following column serves as a central list of colleges students are interested in. They can add colleges to this list and from many places throughout SCORE, or they can add directly by clicking Add a College at the top of the column. If a student has decided that they are ready to apply, they can drag a tile from the Following to the Applying column, or open the college's card in that column, where they'll then mark as applying. Once they do this, they'll mark the application type and method.
So this is very important also. Every year, a lot of students do not select the correct deadline. We're not sure about SCORE, but Naviance would sometimes default to whatever the school wanted it to go to. And then students be like, how come you didn't send out our stuff? And we're like, the deadline's not for another 2 months. So it's really important that you're watching and you're making sure that you're clicking on the correct deadlines. And again, if you're not sure, sometimes schools have fall and spring admissions deadlines. You are not applying for the spring deadline. That means you'd be starting school next spring. You're applying for the fall 2023 deadline. So that you're just going to be very careful when you're selecting those deadlines.
Students can also use college checklists to keep track of their application requirements. Once a student has completed their application and has applied to the college, they are now ready to move the college into the applied column and provide a few additional details. My Colleges is also home to 2 additional columns: suggested and not interested. The suggested column will only display if students have outstanding suggestions from their parents or guardians or a counselor. The not interested column is where students can move colleges they are no longer interested in from the following applying and suggested columns. In their My Colleges page, students can also request recommendations. They can do so by clicking this application documents tile. In here, they'll want to request a recommendation, where they'll list the teacher's name, if it's a college-specific recommendation, the subject for the recommendation, in addition to the message. Once they send, their teachers will then receive an email with the recommendation.
So you don't have to worry about this part right now. That'll be information that we covered during the boot camp this summer and in the fall workshop. The only thing you really need to be concerned with right now is the college searching and how to organize and manage it in the different columns.
Yes. In their application documents tile, students can also view fee waivers in addition to any early decision contracts for the schools they might be applying to. To register for upcoming college visits, students can navigate to their drop-down menu over here and click Events and Deadlines. To register for a visit, all the students are going to need to do is click Count Me In, which will then prompt this to be registered. If a virtual meeting link is provided, students will also be able to launch this meeting directly from this page when the time comes. SCORE's Message Center allows students to receive meaningful college outreach messages from schools that they might be following. Additionally, students can directly message their counselors and parents and guardians in the Direct Messages tab here as well. And last, in a student's drop-down menu, they can also compare colleges, as mentioned earlier. Here, a student can search up to 4 colleges side by side and compare admissions statistics such as SAT scores and ACT scores, application requirements, a comparison of student life, which includes retention rates and diversity rates. Additionally, this includes the most popular majors at each school, followed by a very important piece, which is cost and financial aid. And then again, at the bottom, we have also included location. Should you find yourself having questions when navigating through your SCORE account, in this menu, you can always click this support link here, which will review our help documents that cover most questions that you might have regarding the SCORE student process. And that concludes our overview of the SCORE student application, covering major features and functionality to help students on their college admissions journey.
So that is SCORE in a nutshell.
At Harvard Business School, we have a unique approach to online learning.
We wanted to advertise in Harvard Business School tonight. So don't, like I said, that last piece, don't be overly concerned about that. I don't want you to be overwhelmed right now. You should be just playing around with the college search and management of the schools that you're considering part of SCORE. We're rolling this out in pieces, so not to overwhelm you, but we just wanted to give you a little bit of a sample. Keegan, who was the one that trained us, who was narrating this, is a wonderful person, and she was great, but this was kind of a blah presentation, but I promise you it's more interesting than it even seemed. So that's SCORE. One other comment before we go to questions. Teacher letter recommendations. Before you leave for summer vacation, you should get a commitment from a teacher, most likely it's a junior teacher, to write a letter of recommendation. All you need to do is say, I'm getting my college stuff organized. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to write a letter of recommendation for me in the fall. Just get the commitment from them, okay? You know who the popular teachers are here. Ms. Bucco, who is a relatively new teacher, got slammed, and I say slammed, she probably wrote us, I write one for every student in my caseload, and I have probably about 65 students. She probably wrote just as many as I do, and that's very unusual for a teacher. Good thing she's an English teacher. She knows how to write. But you know who the popular teachers are. They do not have to write if they don't want to. They're doing it on their own time. It's supposedly built into my schedule to write all these, but that's another story for another time. They don't want to write garbage. Okay, that's the bottom line. They want to put some time and some thought in it. A lot of teachers that I've worked with over the years have said the first 20, 25 students that ask me are the ones that are going to get them. I just can't do more than that and make it a quality letter. So beat out your friends who are not here tonight listening to this, and make sure you make a connection with the teacher and get a commitment, and you can follow up with the paperwork. If you want to do the form over the summer and email it to them over the summer, maybe they prefer to do that than waiting until the fall and have to have them all come at one time. The more you can do and get out of the way for yourselves and for your teachers and for your school counselors before school starts, the better off you're gonna position yourself. What ends up happening, I can tell you from the counseling side of things, is if we say that October 13th is the deadline to submit all your stuff to the school counselor, so you can for a November 1st deadline, everyone will show up on the 13th or even later. We can't guarantee that we can process everything, write a well thought out letter of recommendation, and get everything out by the deadline. We ask for 15 school days. Okay, so that gets tricky around Christmas time, Thanksgiving, February vacation. So we will put in the third workbook the deadlines, our deadlines here at Middleborough High School for the college application deadlines. So like I said, if you can get us those forms sooner than later, we can work on it while you're working on your piece of it, okay? But a lot of people think, oh, I got to do everything on my end and then hand it over to the teacher or to the counselor. You don't have to do that. It's better if you get those little things out of the way and then you just move on with things. Okay, so a few things coming up. This has not been announced yet, but there is going to be a college fair that we are going to as a field trip. It's close. It's right down the street, Bridgewater. If you would like to attend the trip and space is limited, the cost is $13, and you need to get a permission slip up in the school counseling office, and the deadline to register is May 18th. And that's for the 24th of May is the actual fair. But like I said, space is limited, so we want to make sure that you can get yourself in there beforehand. And so we need the fee and we need the permission slip in order to get you registered. The college application boot camp, I just got the dates for them just before the workshop began tonight, and it is going to be the week of August 8th, and then there'll be another round the week of August 15th. So you don't have to do both; you only need one. But there's going to be information coming out later in May about registration. Last year, I think it was around $75 per student. If you're on free or reduced lunch, then there can be, I don't know if it's a fee waiver or a reduced fee. I think it might be a waiver. But that is, they're revamping it a little bit from the teacher perspective. The counselor stuff's going to stay the same. So in the past, it's been 4 days. But you talk to any senior that has gone through it, and they're going to tell you it was time well spent. They were 95% complete with their college stuff when they walked away from boot camp. That's if they already had their college lists ready to go and they knew what their schools were. But everything was done, almost done, before they came back for the fall semester. So more to come in college application boot camp. College planning for seniors, that'll be you and their families, and that's both applying to college, will be sometime in either late September, early October. And that is the what do you need to get done? What do we need to get done? How are we going to make this all work in a timely way? There usually is a financial aid workshop in October. Now, the last couple of years with COVID, it's been a remote workshop, so we're not sure where MIFA is at with that. That's the organization that does the workshop for us, but more information will come out on that. Scholarship Information Night will be in February. It's usually the week before February vacation. And that is all the local scholarships that are offered through us and our book, throughout the community that comes through Middleborough High School. National College Signing Day is May 1st. That is the day you have to put your deposit down and make your commitment to the college you wish to attend. Senior Week, May 30th through June 2nd, and there's all kinds of fun activities there. And then graduation on June 3rd at 6 p.m. out at the stadium. In the end of the book, we have some sample forms. So here's a better picture of the teacher letter rec info sheet and the counselor one. And the activity sheet. And we showed you how to list things on the activity sheet here. And then a glossary of terms in case you hear an acronym or a word that doesn't sound familiar to you. It's probably in the back of our book. So with that being said, this is always a much shorter presentation than the first one. We'll open it up to questions.
Is there a list of colleges that'll be at the college fair?
We do not have that list. If you go to NEAC college fairs, it's listed in the mark your calendar. If you Google that, they may have a list there of what schools are going to be there. They're all New England schools. It's yeah, NEAC stands for New England College Admissions and some counselors or something like that. Yes.
The summer boot camp, is that during the day or at night?
During the day. There's usually a morning session or an afternoon session. Again, the way we've done it in the past is there was a morning session for the kids who wanted to do it in the morning. There was an afternoon session for the kids who wanted to do it in the afternoon, and we did that for 2 weeks. Okay, it was a 1 week session, but we had 4 opportunities for them to take advantage of it. Laurie Davis, who was the English teacher that coordinated, is no longer at Middleborough High School. Megan Connor, who did it with her last year, is taking it over, and we're actually meeting with Megan on Friday to discuss the changes that she's making to it. So the counselor piece of it, which was the last day, isn't going to change. That's when we do the Common App and we get the application all complete. I'm not sure, we're not sure yet what her plans are for the essay piece of it, which is the bulk of the work of that boot camp.
Where do you find out if the college is requiring a teacher recommendation?
Where do you find out if a college is requiring a teacher recommendation? Usually it'll say on the application on SCORE or Naviance. Usually it says what the maximum is that you can submit. Or you can just call the admissions office if you're not sure, if you can't find it someplace. Yes.
What if they're not in English this semester?
If they're not in English this semester?
For the SCORE class that you're going to offer?
I think there was one class that, I think there's one English class first semester. And what we're doing is we're going to filter them into some of the smaller classes that are on that schedule. So we'll be contacting those specific students over there.
For SCORE, like, will our GPA be on our website?
It will be, yes. It's not on it. Actually, you know what? I'm not sure. I think we may have loaded it on already. I think we did load it on. But your GPAs are going to be updated again in September. Once we take care of all the incompletes and whatever is outstanding for grades and stuff, we'll update it in September, and that'll be the official number that you'll use when you apply to college. Other questions?
Is anything transferable over from Naviance into SCORE?
Good question. Is anything transferable over from Naviance to SCORE? Yes, some stuff. No, probably not the stuff you wish that was in there. We were able to transfer all of our previous data for how our students over the last 6 years, 7 years have fared, accepted, waitlisted, or denied into SCORE. So you can still look at scattergrams on SCORE. It'll plot you based on your SAT or PSAT scores, depending on what the most recent one is, and your GPA. So you can say, gee, this is a realistic school, or it looks like a stretch school or a safety school. So that type of data, yes, has been transferred over already. Anything that you have saved in there, if you did the Do What You Are or any of the interest surveys and stuff, unfortunately, they don't use those same programs in SCORE. They have similar programs in SCORE, so you can take them again if you'd like to. And it actually might be more accurate if you took some of those as a freshman. Your thoughts and up towards things may have changed a bit over the years, but you certainly could go into Naviance. You have until June 30th to go into Naviance, and you can print out anything you have, just stick it in a file so you have that information.
The GPAs that are going to be in there, are those weighted or unweighted? And as far as class ranking, are they weighted?
Okay, so the
unweighted?
question is about GPAs and class ranks and weighted and unweighted. So Middleborough High School uses a weighted class rank and an unweighted GPA. Okay, so what that means is the highest GPA you can have is a 4.0. Okay, the reason they use a weighted rank is to try to avoid ties. Does that make sense? Okay.
So the different sheets that they have to fill out, they can get them out of Naviance now?
Yes, the 3 sheets that they need to fill out, the teacher letter rec info sheet, the guidance counselor letter rec info sheet, and the activity sheet are still available in Naviance in the document resources. So when they go onto their homepage, they scroll down to the bottom and it'll say document resources. You click on that link and you'll see the links for the 3 forms.
But the teacher recommendation one, that has to be filled out, but they can reach out to them now?
They all need to be filled out eventually. I would recommend reaching out to the teachers right away and getting a commitment. You don't have to give them anything right now. Just get the commitment and say, I will get you the information. But again, the sooner they take care of those little things that are just floating out there, this form for this person, this form for that person, and just cross all those little things off their to-do list, send them out to everybody. At least you know that you've done your part and now it's up to them.
So if they fill out the teacher recommendation form, that's gonna be in SCORE, and do they have to actually spend that?
So they're going to fill it out. The forms are in SCORE and they're also in Naviance. Right now, they can't access SCORE quite yet. So if they want to get a start, let's say this weekend, they wanted to start working on it, they can go to their Naviance account and they can do it there, save it outside of Naviance as a Word document. And then when you're ready to email it to your teacher, when you get the commitment, you can email or to your counselor. You don't have to ask your counselor for a recommendation. We will write one automatically for you, but we just need those forms. You may as well just email them out. Just know that you're done with that piece of it.
So that's how they email those forms to you? They're not
Yes.
like loaded back in?
No, they don't get that loaded back in, no.
And does every college require guidance, like a counselor?
No. No, fewer and fewer. They used to, when I first started doing this, they were requiring at least a counselor and at least one teacher recommendation. The colleges have changed because of the volume, the sheer volume. They've just decided that, we're not even reading these things. So depending on the school, there are lots of schools out there that they want the teacher one, but they don't care about us as much anymore, so.
So if you've already, say the students already looked at a bunch of schools, you can see right on there what they require. So they may not have to fill out the guidance. I'm just thing is like. if-
So no, they still have to fill out those forms. Well, most likely, unless they're applying to one college, it's not recommending, they're not requiring a letter of recommendation. They're gonna probably need at least one letter sent someplace. So what we usually do is a student has 5 schools on their list that that they're applying to, and they request their transcripts, which we'll talk about. That's gonna be done through SCORE also. So you're gonna have to learn how to use SCORE, because you can't just come in and say, I want my letter and my transcript sent out. You have to request it through your SCORE account. This way, it's the digital timestamp on it. We know exactly when it came in. There's no, if it doesn't get there, now it's on us. It's our fault. But there was just too much in the past, not just here at a lot of other schools, where people were saying, oh, I made the request, a verbal request, or I handed in a note saying I wanted it, and you didn't send it out. So it all has to be done electronically, just to say, hey, this is the exact time I sent it. But what I do as a counselor, if I have those 5 schools, regardless of whether or not the schools want a counselor rec, I just click submit, and then Naviance and SCORE will send them to the schools that want them. They won't send. Now, it's different for the teacher ones, okay? What happens with the teacher, if you ask 2 teachers to write recommendations and the college only wants 1, the first teacher that submits theirs is the one the college gets. The other teacher gets blocked. So if you're applying for an engineering program and you had an English teacher and a science teacher, right, and the English teacher submitted theirs first, but the science one was your primary, there's no way of getting it there. Okay, so you got to be very careful. And SCORE is a little bit better about it than Naviance was. They had actually a box saying send it to this school only, or send it to all my schools. It'll tell you which, you can click right on it. You look like you're still confused.
Well, I'm trying to figure, so the forms they print out, but everything's requested through SCORE and sent through SCORE, but they don't hand, I'm just confused where the form really comes in.
The form goes to, the green form goes to the school counselor. We used to say in the old days, green for guidance, okay? The blue form goes to the teacher, okay? That does not go to the college. That is just information for the teacher and the counselor, so when they're writing their letter of recommendation, they make sure that they're not missing any vital or important information. Then the teacher and the counselor upload their letter into SCORE, and it gets submitted when we will upload the transcripts, we'll upload all the school profile, all the documents that we have to fill out, gets uploaded, then we click send, and it goes off to the college.
So you want them to email you that green form, like email that?
Yes, yes.
So what if you're looking into like an outside scholarship and they want letters of recommendation from teachers?
You just ask the teacher if they can,
So they have to send it directly to the student then, so it's completely separate from this letters of recommendation.
you don't have to worry about the scholarships that get coordinated through Middleborough High School.
These are outside.
Outside ones? Yeah, depending on the teachers, most letters of recommendation are not seen by the teachers. By the students, okay? There's a few teachers that will share their letters. And the reason for that, same thing with the counselors, we don't share letters. And the reason for that is because we don't want people counting lines. You wrote 25 lines for this person, but for my daughter, you only wrote 19 lines. And it's, what might be significant for one might not be significant for the other. Now, the teachers don't have to write letters. And if a teacher's not comfortable writing a letter, they'll say, you might want to ask somebody else. I'm not sure I'd be your best bet. The counselors, we have to write letters. Our job is to get kids into college. In 24 years, I think I had 2 students in 24 years where it was a little difficult to write a letter for, but I just left the garbage out and just focused on the transcript and the activities and that stuff and everything. So, my job is, regardless of the student behavior, personality, whatever, academics, if they want to go to college and try to, create a life for themselves, I'm all for it. I'm going to help them get in.
But for those outside scholarships, the teachers would send it to them.
So depending on teachers may give it to them in a sealed envelope, or they may say, complete your part of it, give me an envelope, a stamped addressed envelope, I'll pop my piece in and send it for you. So it's up to the individual teacher. Yes,
Can we just go back to that, like letter of recommendation if you ask for more than one and the English teacher gets it in first? What about schools that allow you to send more than one? And now your English teacher was the first one in, and so every school's getting your English one. And only some
no,
schools
it's individual by school. It's individual, it's not all at once. So what'll happen is if you're applying to Boston College and they say we want one teacher rec, then you have to click specific to this school, the one that you want, okay? So if it's Mrs. Milani, you want to click Mrs. Milani's one, and that's the one that's gonna go. If you're applying to Bridgewater and you want to send two, then you just click submit all letters of recommendation. The student clicks that.
So you're saying if it just requires one and you have more than one teacher, you can choose which teacher you're
Yes, the student
sending?
can
It doesn't
choose.
matter which teacher got theirs in first? Because first you were saying,
As long as the student clicks it when they make the request, because what they're gonna have to do, and again, we're gonna cover this in the next session,
Okay.
is the student's gonna go in and they're gonna click request recommendation for the teacher. And they're gonna invite the teacher, okay? So this way the teacher will be notified, hey, this small person is asking you to write a letter of recommendation, but again, the student shouldn't do that until they already have a commitment from the teacher that they're willing to do that. But when the student does that, there's gonna be a box saying, send this teacher's letter to this school only or all schools. It'll prompt the student. As long as the student clicks the right box, there's no problem. If the student clicks the wrong box, then we have a problem.
okay.
So you're just gonna read it carefully, that's all.
I have a question regarding the weighted class rank and the unrated GPAs. So what do colleges look at the most? Are they looking at the class rank? Will they see the class rank along with the GPA? And what do they focus more on?
So the question is, class weighted versus unweighted ranks and GPAs, and what are the colleges looking at most? First off, all colleges recalculate grade point averages. Okay, because every high school is coming to them on a different scale. Some scales are weighted, some scales are unweighted. So every college is going to say, okay, let's say you took, let's say psychology. You took an honors psychology class. Okay, we don't offer honors psychology here, but just using it as an example. And you took an honors sociology class. Okay, so we're going to average those two grades together. We're going to call them the social science. Oh, they were honors. We'll give you an extra half a point for that too. Okay, so they all have their own ways of doing it, and they'll be honest and transparent about that. If you ask them, how do you recalculate? But that's their way of trying to level the playing field. A lot of schools have. The first school I worked at had college prep phys ed. It's the only school I've worked at that has college prep phys ed. It's usually a standard course. Colleges are probably not going to weight that as a college prep course. A lot of schools, here included, we have honors band. Okay. Some, unless you're applying to Berklee College of Music, they may not be counting that as an honors class. They may not even count it in the GPA at all. They may just say it's an activity. So it won't hurt you either way. So it's not an exact science, and every school has their way of doing it. Years ago, I had a student, a brother and a sister. The sister, the older brother got into Maryland. And his GPA was actually lower than his sister, who was a year younger than him, and she didn't get in. And the reason she didn't get in is because when they recalculated the GPA, they changed their policy, and Maryland at the time, and they probably changed since then, but they only counted English, math, social science, language. And I'm talking cores. I'm not talking about electives in those departments. Okay? So if you took honors accounting, they wouldn't count that. That's not a core academic course. So she worked harder. She was in more intense classes, and she ended up not getting into the school that her brother got into the year before, because that's the way they decided to calculate. Now, most schools aren't that extreme, but it does get confusing. Our GPA, because our GPA is not weighted, and many high schools do have both weighted GPAs and weighted class ranks, and that gives the student and the parent more of an idea of how they fare in the process when you're looking at like what the numbers are at the colleges, what the average GPAs are and stuff. So it can be a little misleading. And it's something that we've been in discussions with for a few years now, saying we'd like to look at possibly changing that. But it is what it is right now. It's not in our hands. But what we do when we meet with the students is if we have a student with a 3.2 and they've taken a lot of honors classes, we know it's not a legitimate 3.2, it's a little bit higher. Okay, so we would sit there and advise them saying, this school isn't a stretch school, this school is more of a realistic school for you. You should apply to this school. And I had a lot of students this year, probably this year more so than ever, that weren't going to apply to schools because they didn't think their GPAs just weren't there. And I'm like, throw it in, get that application in. I think you're going to stand a better chance in this round of applications. And they got in. So we will do our best to advise them in that regard too.
I have another question too regarding SATs. Some of the colleges saying that they're not required to submit. Do you suggest that every student submit it no matter what?
Okay, so the question is, some colleges are not requiring SATs anymore. Do we recommend that they submit them anyways? No, we don't. You really have to look at what the college is looking for as far as grade point average and that type of thing. So if some students like me, I don't test well. Okay, you give me an essay test that I can write and write and write and write. You give me a multiple choice test, and I'm going to see an answer in each one of those responses. So I just lost my train of thought. It's been a long day, folks. I'm sorry.
If a college, if you didn't turn it in and someone did turn it in.
So
does it look
the
bad?
SATs are not necessarily a reflection on how the student has performed academically on a daily basis in the classroom. So, I've had students that have really done poorly on SATs. But their GPAs are legitimate, solid GPAs. They weren't inflated grades. And they said, should I submit them? No, don't submit them. Why? Let's not put any doubt in their minds by submitting those. On the reverse side, I've had students that have had lower GPAs and higher SATs, and I'm like, send them. It's definitely sent. So it's a great question to ask the counselor. Yes.
What if a college has told you that you don't have to send them, but you should just anyway, but they're not gonna make their application?
So what if the college is saying
They're saying we don't have to.
you don't have to send them?
But you have to just send them anyway.
If you have them, send them anyways.
They're not gonna base it.
I would talk with the school counselor and ask them what they think. Well, you guys have asked a lot of questions tonight, which is great. We don't usually get this many questions. Go ahead.
Do you meet with, do you meet with everyone as they're like applying or?
Yes, good question. Do we meet with everyone as they're applying? Yes, we do. So what'll happen is when we get back in September, it'll be scheduling chaos with everyone that selected their courses that no longer want their courses. So for the first few weeks of school, we're going to be pretty much just doing all that stuff. And then once we make it into the third week, fourth week of school, we will start scheduling individual meetings with students, with seniors, to talk specifically about their situation and see where they're at with things. Usually what I do is I sit down with them and I review their Common App with them if they went through the boot camp. If they have not gone through the boot camp, then I will sit down and I will open up the Common App account and I will sit them for the next hour and fill out the application. It's a lot of time, but it's time well spent early on rather than having to keep doing it over the course of the whole school year. And at least I know that it's done and they have an application ready to go. And of course, some students come back constantly or email constantly with questions. That's fantastic. Love it. Love it. They're not bothering me. Okay. I may not get back to them in 24 hours, depending on the volume, but I will get back to them. I always tell the students, if I don't get back to you within the 24 hours, knock on my door, come down after school or between classes. I will stop what I'm doing. I will answer those questions. I'd rather have that communication going than having them sit there not knowing what to do, or not asking the questions. They're not bothering me. It's probably my favorite part of the job is the college piece. It's a lot of work, but it's the part that I really enjoy doing because I just see them coming in as freshmen and then making their plans to go out into the world is really an experience. So same thing for parents. If you got questions, just email or call. If you want to come in and have, sit down with your student and me, we can do that. If you have, when you get to the point of deciding what application deadlines you want to apply for, what I usually tell the seniors is if you know you have a November 1st deadline or a November 15th deadline, don't wait for me to go down the roster and call you down here, because I usually go down the roster alphabetically. So if you have an early deadline, email me, I'll schedule right away. The kids that are deciding that they don't want to go to college or they want to go to a community college and they can apply at any time of the year, I don't need to meet with them in September. I can meet with them in January. So that's not a problem. So the students that are eager and ambitious, let's get it going. My mind is fresh off a summer vacation. I haven't written a letter of recommendation in months, so my brain is fresh and ready to go. So you get me at a good time when you do that. Any other questions? All right. Well, you guys were great tonight. I really appreciate all the questions. I'll be around for a little while if you want to come up and ask anything else. This workshop will be posted on the website. Actually, I think as soon as I click the button on Sean's computer, it's going to go live on the website. And the workbooks will be sent out. And actually, the workbook is on the website already. If you want to download it, you can certainly do that. Please reach out with any of the counselors if you have any questions. And again, thanks for giving up another evening and coming in here to listen to me babble for a while. So thank you, and everybody have a great night.
Thank you.
He's like, some dudes. I think you are right here. I also want to go in. And we would all just right now. It is way more expensive. Okay. No, well, I don't know. Specifically said we're not. Yep. That's good. Reassuring. So you need, they get 4.0, and they give you honors every time. But once they, and UNH also told us that they all week out.
I didn't know that, but that's when he said that makes sense, because
Yeah.
it's not fair if you're putting a 4.0, but this kid's only ever taken,
And but they'll look at
honor
the
and
kids.
AP.
And the schools will look at what classes they took to.
And they'll look at like how. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so. That's what they get the kid with the 4.0 who has the APs and honors is compared to coming from midfield. Like they make it. Right, yeah.
And he scored on like 3%.
Yeah.
Damn applicant.
Yes. That's the thing. I don't know what's going on. So first time he goes to Scotland, and she said she had to She said to me last night, that's what she did.
There's quite a few that we look at don't have it. Now,
She said he didn't believe
you
it.
either have to go for that binding one or you just wait that.
It's like Russian roulette.
Oh, I know. Well, that's, yeah, no,
I
that's
was never sure.
crazy scary.
If you didn't.
Yeah. No, that's scary.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good night.